Everyone, it's 6:30 p.m. here on October 21st, 2024, so I guess we will get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the monthly council meeting here in the beautiful city of Summerside in our historic City Hall. With that, I will call officially our meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. To begin, first order of business is a motion to approve the agenda as presented from a member of council. Councillor Snow, second. Councillor Duran, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, changes, or revisions? Hearing none, we'll continue to the next step. We begin each one of our meetings here in the city of Summerside by acknowledging that the land upon which we gather is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Abagway is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this island for over 12,000 years, past, present, and future. At this point, I will call for any member of council to declare a conflict of interest with respect to any item on the agenda before you this evening. Hearing none, we'll move on to number two. Number two is approval of minutes. I will start with the planning board, as the members of planning board would be the ones to approve those minutes. So I will call for a motion to approve the October 1st, 2024 planning board minutes. Move Councillor Duran, second. Councillor Snow, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, as a member of planning board. Any opposed or changes? Hearing none. Those minutes are carried. The next, I will call for a motion to approve the monthly meeting minutes of September 16th, 2024, and the October 1st, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting of Council. Require a motion mover from Council. Councillor Cameron, second. Councillor McColeman, all in favor of the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, changes, or revisions? Hearing none, those minutes are officially adopted. Now we get to move into the fun part of the evening, which is part three, it's scheduled here under our accolades and recognitions, and I guess it is a bit of both. As many folks know, we have a new councillor-elect joining us, Mr. Ken Trenholm, who is the councillor-elect for Ward 5, Hillcrest, Platte River. We're going to get on with the official swearing-in piece, but I'm just going to draw everybody's attention briefly to the table in front of me. And on the table before me is the A. Rogers Bible. This Bible is believed to have been used at every council swearing-in ceremony for Summerside since 1877. Inscribed with Arthur Rogers. I checked, I did pick it up. Maybe I'm not supposed to without gloves, but I picked it up with Arthur Rogers, April 1874, son to Summerside's first mayor, David Rogers. The Bible is now archived at the McNaught History Center and loaned to City Hall for each swearing-in ceremony, including the annual junior mayor and council ceremonies. So with that, we're going to move into the official swearing-in. So I'd like to welcome up the Honorable Justice Nancy Key of the Prince Edward Island Supreme Court for the reading of the oath of office, and Mr. Ken Trenholm, Councillor-elect for Ward 5.
Councillor for the City of Summerside, which I have been elected, and that I shall diligently, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability perform the duties of office, and to abide by the Municipal Government Act and all the other acts, regulations, and bylaws applicable to the City of Summerside for as long as I hold said office.
Signing here. Right, and then I'll sit and finish up what I need to finish. And Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome aboard, Councillor Trenholm. With that, I think we'll open the floor to you, Councillor, to provide some welcome introductory remarks to the gallery and the community.
But should I put this on? Oh, I think Brian just did. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, so it's my pleasure to be here. Just really short. Just a few things. First thing is, whenever I was elected, I said I want to, I guess, receive feedback from the community before I make any decisions. It's really important, right? So I have an email list that hopefully people will subscribe to, just so I can send out information to keep people informed, but also get their opinions and ideas. To me, that's very important. The second item is that I want to always be, I guess, have an open avenue to see people. And so every second month, there's going to be an open session. So the first one's at Parkview Seniors Club, and it's December 13th. And so everybody's always welcome to attend, whether you're in Ward 5 or not, and you just want to kind of build a sense of community. And the other thing is, there's, I guess, the largest concern that Ward 5 addressed, which I will bring forward, I will put up to the next committee of the whole meeting, was just in terms of the seniors and the shelter being located where it was located. So I won't get into any details now, but come the committee of the whole meeting, the committee of the whole, I'll talk about those issues there. But that being said, I'm very honored to be the representative of Vian City Council. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. And then you just push the button there to turn your microphone off. When you put it on, it means you want to talk. Unless you've got more to say. Not right now, exactly. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is where we do public presentations, petitions, and delegations from members of the public. This evening, we are lucky to have with us the incredible people at the Prince County Hospital Foundation. I believe we have the Vice President of the PCH Foundation, Derek Bont, and Paul Young coming up. So welcome, and we're happy to have you here. And I think you're going to take us through a presentation on the great things that the PCH Foundation is doing. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Derek.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening to all the councillors. It's certainly a pleasure to be here this evening to present to you on behalf of the PCH Foundation. As the Mayor's indicated, my name is Derek Bont. I'm the Vice President of the PCH Foundation. And my colleague to my left, Mr. Young, is going to talk to you guys about as well our New Horizons Committee, about the project that we'd like to bring to your attention that's spearheaded by the Foundation in conjunction as well with the medical school. So I'll let Paul introduce himself, and we'll begin.
Wonderful. Thank you, Derek. Your Worship, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. We're really excited to take the opportunity and really share, I think, a tremendously exciting initiative that the Foundation has decided to take on, and share with you an update of what it is, where we're going with it, and next steps. So really pleased to be here. Derek and I are co-chairs of that committee, and we have some great representation from a number of folks that are helping to pull this together, which we'll speak to in terms. So Derek's going to start talking through some updates of the great work the Foundation is doing, and then we'll get into this new initiative.
Thank you, Paul. So for the councillors that may not know, the Hospital Foundation is certainly what we'd like to refer to as active in the community, and certainly our goal and initiative and priority is to support the hospital. As the councillors could be aware, that healthcare is certainly a growing concern and has been for a number of years to the citizens of Summerside and Prince County and the island as a whole. The Foundation has taken again, as I would describe it, an active role in addressing some of these concerns. We've gone to the point where we've expanded our mission statement, and we're obviously stewards of the funds that we do have in the Foundation, but we felt we had to take some new initiatives in order to address the growing concerns and needs of the healthcare community, and obviously healthcare as a whole. So we've looked at expanding that role. We have some recent innovations through recruitment and retention, and we'd like to recognize and thank the city as well for your support through those incentives and initiatives. But what we're looking at in terms of next steps is something certainly we want to bring to your attention tonight. Some just examples that we do on the ground right now is some wellness at work for staff, various opportunities that we can say thank you to staff, because at the end of the day, we want to create an environment for our hospital staff that's that they feel supported and they feel listened to, and that they feel, again, that the community has their back. We feel the foundation's an important conduit for that. So we try to do various initiatives to support them. A new and kind of exciting project we've gone through in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years is housing initiatives, where the foundation itself has purchased housing to assist with locum stays, either travel nurses and any other opportunities that may arise in terms of providing housing to incoming doctors. And that's been very successful, and it's been quite busy. As you can imagine, housing is certainly an issue that the city is aware of, and we're trying to help with that in recruitment and retention of healthcare professionals. So that's something we've looked at, and in purchasing condo units, and currently we have 6 units right now. So there's a duplex on Starlight, and then we've had 2 additional duplexes on Key Avenue that are fully furnished. And again, it's been a huge uptake, very popular, and they're well used. And we like to think that there's positive impact from that, in that we can think of at least 1 or 2 examples where we like to take some credit that there's been doctors retained and recruited because of it, because their experience coming to the PCH was so welcoming and supportive that that they decided to stay. So we want to continue to do that. With that, we've also hired a community navigator. That's with the support of the provincial government as well. That this individual helps with recruitment and retention, and anything that settlement needs that may be for any doctors coming in or healthcare staff. That's been a huge asset as well. What we'd like to, our next project, and why we're here, is we want to focus on a development next to the hospital that we've purchased, approximately 11 acres. Again, that's next to the PCH. And we are in discussions now with both the province, the federal government, and now the municipal government in terms of how we can look at this as a go-forward opportunity. So we've secured the land, and we're working in conjunction with the med school and, like I said, various levels of government, that we can look at a satellite learning center through UPEI, the med school. But not only that, we also want to look at engaging childcare facility and housing. So it's a multi-use building that we're looking to erect. It would be a community-led initiative. It's the foundation that's going to, be the owner of the land, and that we're going to move it forward, obviously in conjunction with our various partners. But our goal tonight is to bring this to your attention and have it on your radar as we move forward, because we certainly would like to work with the city going forward for this project. So I'll flip it over to Paul now, who will talk to a bit more about the specifics.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek. So this is really exciting, and I think it's important to note here, just by way of background, I've been in hospital administration for the last 15 years, and the previous administrator for Prince County Hospital, and I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with a number of hospital foundations across the country and across the island. And on PEI, we're incredibly fortunate to have a number of foundations that are very community focused and dedicated to helping to address a number of challenges beyond just the equipment needs of the hospital, which is a significant task in itself. But in terms of the Prince County Hospital Foundation, I think everyone here should be quite proud of the work that the foundation is doing and leading, in my opinion, probably one of the most progressive hospital foundations in the country. And that is evidenced by some of the great work that Derek has alluded to here as well. There's a long list of other initiatives that the foundation has taken on to complement the work that government is doing, knowing that some of these challenges that we're being faced, there's not one single solution or one single body that can do it alone, that we need to do that together. And here's a really exciting example, something we've been talking about for a long time, which is looking in terms of addressing some of the childcare challenges we have for healthcare workers, certainly at the hospital, but within healthcare in the region, there are housing challenges, both in terms of supporting our student placements, but also attracting professionals to the area, We have a lot of travel nurses, locums, et cetera. So there's certainly a need for housing. And then with the new medical school, which is my daytime job as a chief operating officer with the medical school at UPEI, there's some needs that are coming up in the next couple of years that the Prince County Hospital has considered in terms of what if we did this all together and what would that look like. So this committee here, we have a small group that has come together with representation from the foundation, Prince County Hospital staff, physicians, the city, community leaders, and the medical school, all talking about what those needs are and what this big idea could become. And what we did is we approached all levels of government, met with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. And last spring, they asked this group to go back and put a little bit more work into conceptual design, if we could put together high-level floor plans to help map it out, as well as do some preliminary cost estimates. So we went ahead over the last 3-4 months, we put that work together, and we came up with a few initial designs that we'll share with you tonight as well, just very conceptual to give you a sense of what we're looking at. With the medical school, we have been working closely with Architects 4, which is an architectural firm out of Moncton that, based on the needs that we're looking at within the building, perhaps next slide, Derek, they were able to help us very quickly pull together a rendering and a floor plan given some of their previous work in this space. So what you're seeing here is just a very high-level rendering over what this building could look like. Next slide. And it's a 5-level, 47,000 square foot building that would have 5 floors and really 4 entities within it. So on the first floor, we're envisioning an early learning center or a childcare center, an 80 license center that would not only help with childcare capacity needs, but there's a whole basket of innovation that would be wrapped within that, looking in terms of not only having capacity for the childcare needs for healthcare workers, but a childcare model that is designed to meet the needs of the professionals that work in a 24/7, 7-day-a-week environment. So that'd be floor 1. Floor 2 is something that we've labeled a simulation center. So simulation space is typically what you would have in a lot of our hospitals. We don't have very much of it within the island context. We do have some. Infrastructure is part of it. The equipment is another piece of it. But the expertise is really important. There's a significant amount of expertise that goes into providing healthcare simulations. The university has done this quite well for years, and as part of developing the medical school, we have a very, and are developing a state-of-the-art, future-focused simulation environment and the expertise that encompasses. And so what we're envisioning as part of our partnership with the Prince County Hospital is having a footprint here and the expertise that can work in partnership with the hospital and healthcare within the region. Floor 3 would be part of current needs for our residency programs within the area. We need space for call rooms, we need space for classrooms and workstations, and that's present day. That's a challenge for the hospital presently, and as we bring in and increase more medical learners and residents within the province, and certainly within the Somerset region, infrastructure needs are going to be quite prominent. And that's an opportunity here that in discussions with the foundation had identified perhaps this is a really good fit for within the context of this building. And then the 4th and the 5th floor would be a mix of 1, 2, or potentially 3-bedroom apartments that could be used by medical learners, by nursing students, by locums, travel nurses, potentially new hires for some transitional housing as well for new hires coming into the community. So lots of opportunity within that footprint. I won't speak long, just consideration of time around simulation. But just a touch on it, simulation is that opportunity to use technology, to use expertise, to create a realistic opportunity or a training scenario for healthcare providers. So it's that opportunity where you can take a workplace-related issue in the healthcare setting and you run it in simulation. It done well, it's as real as it comes. This is where you learn, this is where you make mistakes, this is where you fall forward and you grow and you apply that into the context of the healthcare setting. Simulation, again, it's an expertise, and done well, it quite effectively improves healthcare, it improves outcomes, and it saves the system money. So there's lots of opportunities there. Medical learners use simulation, residents use simulation, nursing students use simulation. About 25% of their curriculum is done in a simulation environment. And then, of course, our community first responders. At the medical school, we get reach outs every day from different agencies that are seeking their simulation expertise out of the province that are all new to us. So there are lots of opportunities where that could be offered here within Summerside as well. Just a quick snapshot on, for example, medical learners. This was a slide that was pulled from the Spindle report, which was the health system planning tool that we did last year. Just to give you a sense, so at the end of the fourth year, an approximate number of about 14, 15 medical learners would be needing housing within the Summerside area. So that is something that when we look at this opportunity to bring that together, and all of a sudden you can start to see where the synergies come from, where you have nursing students and medical students, residents, locums, all healthcare providers within this one entity that would be learning and working together. Creates a very special space. And what does this cost? So we took the floor plans, we did some work and some consultation, and the approximate cost for this initiative is about 24 million, I think 24.3 million to be exact, and the breakdown of the floors are noted on the slide itself. And then Derek's just going to touch on partnerships. So what does that mean in terms of existing costing? What commitments do we have, and where are we going?
Thanks so much, Paul. So I'm not sure if most of the councillors were at the Grassroots and Cowboy Boots event that we held this past September. It's certainly a very popular fundraising event that we put on every year. Certainly thanks to Mr. Ellis for his efforts on that. But during that event, the Premier did commit to a $10 million investment. We have various opportunities for federal funding. Paul is, I don't want to say daily contact, but high-level contacts with MP Bobby Morrissey on making sure that we have federal options available in terms of funding. We've done some community presentations as well to Rotary, and we're here tonight to the city to look at some potential partnerships going forward, because obviously there is going to be a cost, and we're certainly wanting to again make every effort to bring this to fruition, and we're looking for partnerships through all levels of government as we can hopefully bring this to the city, because we certainly, from the foundation's perspective, from the med school, and I would hope from the community's perspective, that it's an initiative that we can all get behind, and certainly looking to the city in a partnership role in whatever capacity may be available. So we certainly want to thank you. This, again, is more of an information session, and happy to answer any questions. But we're certainly looking forward to future conversations as we bring the project to fruition.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Paul. I think I'll start by opening the floor to council. Members of council have any comments, questions, or anything they would like to share? Councillor Trenholm?
This was so exciting. The first time I pressed it in, it worked. And I get to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
That was an awesome presentation. And when you talked about childcare, kaboom, right? Like that is definitely what's needed. And I love it that you're building it, of course, around the model that you need it. It's 24/7, right? Yeah. So that's fabulous. So I just wanted to say, we're all in on that. And that was actually part of one of my campaign things, was trying to do this. So, hey, you're doing it. So that's just wonderful. Thank you.
No, that's great. And I mean, we're flexible. If the city's looking at different options for funding or rebates or whatever the case may be, the foundation would be happy to have conversations on a go forward. As we don't have, how would I put it? As you can imagine, the challenges between the provincial and the federal government were who's going to blink first, who's going to pay more first, or who's going to make the commitment or whatever. So we're confident that we could get to a place where there's going to be funding on the table from both levels. But as we move forward, the more commitments and the more confirmation of funding that we have, certainly our position would be that the better the project's going to be. Because this is from a volunteer basis on the foundation. Yes, obviously the med school has been a huge help in guiding us through the process. But we're certainly like to form those positive partnerships now at the beginning, so we can kind of move forward in a positive light. The more people we have on board, the better. So thanks, Ken. It's good to hear that it's supported for sure. Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you both. I'd certainly encourage you to submit any proposals, and certainly welcome to invite any proposals. I think this council is always open to hearing opportunities for partnership, particularly as they relate to opportunities to improve the health and well-being of members of our community. Also, just as a thank you for being a partner, we have partnered on other things together. Thank you for being an advocate for residents. Thank you for being a leader to help improve care and access to care here in Summerside. Thanks for your support, not just for the physicians and the nurses, but for the RTs, the lab techs, the custodial staff, the volunteers, the cleaners, the people who cook the food and make the hospital run, all of those people who are hospital needs. And thank you for your attention and dedication, and for being bold and transformative in how you approach the foundation, particularly with respect to, again, retention and recruitment in that order. It certainly makes a big difference in our community, and certainly wish you the best of luck. And it's exciting. It's great to see a foundation. There are very few foundations who do what the foundation here does, and we are really, really appreciative. So continuously happy to support Grassroots Cowboy Boots, and look forward to inviting proposals. And I just have, the only question I had is, what's your general timeline?
It's, how would I put it? We had a New Horizons Committee meeting today, so we would anticipate having a in an ideal world, we would look at construction hopefully next fall. Okay, so in terms of proposals, we'd be looking to come back. I could say within the next 1 to 2 months, because again, I'm talking in an ideal situation. We have our funding lined up by the end of the year, so we know where we are and what we can do. Because again, there's timelines on the med school side that they need certain, these beds and this space by a certain date. So again, ideally, we'd like to see this off the ground relatively soon. So certainly, if council's open to a proposal, we'd be certainly looking to submit something relatively shortly. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks
you.
again for taking the time this evening, and good luck, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to
Take
see you
care.
both. Thanks. Bruce, were you signaling something? No. Okay. Sorry. You're waving. Sorry. Pointing at something. All right. Over here. At this item 5 on our agendas is appointment to committees. As I think I've said before here, it's sort of been my intent to, after 2 years, look at the representative positions. Council, it will be 2 years for most of us, less Ken and Nick, and I haven't been counting the months for either of them. So I'd expect we'll do that next month. But in the interim, I am going to appoint Councillor Trenholm of Ward 5 as the new representative for municipal services, with a caveat to not get too comfortable, because things might move around next month. Not to say that you won't be there or will be there, but don't settle in and move in your furniture or anything to Greg's office. You can do that. I'd enjoy to watch that. So with that, I will appoint you, Councillor Trenholm, as the municipal services representative, and you will be responsible for presenting council with the report here this evening. With that moved, we will continue to the item 6, which is introduction and reading of bylaws and resolutions. And at this point, I'll hand it over to the Chair of Planning Board, Councillor Duran, for item 6A.
Shut me up yet? I didn't even start talking. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll just get right into it. There are a number of resolutions to cover. So the first one is Resolution COS 24-083, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Nick Cameron. Whereas the City of Summerside has been successful in receiving CMHC funding under the Housing Accelerator Fund program, and whereas the initiatives under the successful application involved a number of policy adjustments and planning updates, including in relation to the city's east-west connector growth node, legalizing 4 units on residential lots, increasing densification around post-secondary institutions, and reducing exclusionary zoning. And whereas the city has undertaken steps to meet initial milestones under the initiatives and begin the implementation of the recommendations of the Task Force on Attainable Housing. And whereas in accordance with sections 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable. Conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development, and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, and other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that official plan amendment OP 39 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted with the following amendments. 1, in Table 5-1 in Section 5.3, the deletion of the words apartments, maximum 4 units / building, in the row labeled low density. Number 2, in Section 5.5, the addition of the words limited in the lower density zones to single detached dwellings, duplex and semi-detached dwellings, row and townhouse dwellings, and accessory dwelling units. Following the words, all residential lots may accommodate 4 units, and. Number 3, the addition of a new 6.6 that reads, changing all references to Building Bylaw SS09 to Building Bylaw CS31 throughout. Number 4, Section 5.15, notwithstanding Policy 4, delegate approval authority to the Development Officer in the East-West Connector Districts area, except where otherwise provided for in the zoning bylaw, applying development standards and, where appropriate, design standards rather than a requirement for comprehensive development plans. And number 5, in Section 5.53, Part 2, the timely development of this area will be promoted as a means of meeting current and future housing needs, and approval authority will be delegated to staff, except where otherwise provided for in the zoning bylaw, subject to clear criteria and standards in the bylaw. Be it further resolved that the City of Summerside East-West Connector Street Plan, the 2008 Secondary Plan, be hereby repealed. And official plan amendment OP 39 is attached in the significantly large package that's available for print or online for anyone to review. OP 39 bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting held on August 12th, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. So Resolution COS 24-083, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is now on the floor. At this point, I will open the floor to questions and comments from council. I would note, just before we begin that, for members of the public, there are 1, 2, 3 other resolutions that may or may not move forward. There have been a discussion of a number of changes through this process and the periods of public engagement. A lot of those changes are contained in the next resolution. So if there is something you're sitting there going, I thought there was some sort of change, it would come up at the next resolution if we get to that resolution. So with that, I will open the floor, and I think I would expect all members of council will want to share some comments. So we'll start with Councillor Adams. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I just have some comments, but first off, I have a question. We're referencing now City's East-West Connector Growth Node. I thought we were going to use East-West, City's East-West Housing Corridor as our staple, because we've had the connector, we've had the housing corridor, and now we're seeing this growth node pop up. I just don't know where the growth node came from all of a sudden.
I think that was mentioned at the public meeting.
Yeah, to take it out. Yeah. I guess it just gets confusing when the same thing is called multiple things.
Gordon, I'm looking to you on that. That's in paragraph 2, just in the first sentence there,
Just in the
Cities
whereas.
East-West Connector Growth Node.
I'm assuming that in the current official plan, that's what it's referred to. And that's likely why it's in the whereas there, but.
Okay, yeah, because then it's in 84 as well. Right.
Can you confirm, Gordon, that's the same thing? That is what we call the
Yeah,
East-West Housing
cer-
Corridor is the
certainly.
same as the East-West Connector,
Correct.
same as the East-West Connector growth map?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I'd request that that be changed so that it's consistent throughout the whole official plan. I think I don't see why it wouldn't be the same, called the same thing throughout the whole thing. If we can vote on these with that as a note, that gets changed. Just, I think it's important to be consistent throughout the official plan on that.
Yeah, no reason why that can't be a friendly amendment for that. That's been brought up before.
Yeah, because like Councillor McColman mentioned, it was brought up on the 26th as well, so. I guess, are you allowing time, like, are we allowing time for comments here, or how are we going to go about this?
Yeah, I think this is the opportunity for council if they want to provide comments really on the whole package, because as I mentioned to members of the public here, the first vote is on the official plan changes. If the official plan changes are not made, then the zoning bylaw changes will not go forward. If the official plan changes are made, then we'll move into the consideration of the zoning bylaw. So this really is the opportunity to be able to speak to the whole package of proposals that
I
have
just
been
didn't
before
want
us.
to overstep and
No,
start a
absolutely.
whole-
No, this is the right
just to make
time
sure.
to say your piece.
I guess, first of all, second of all now, I want to table 3 documents. A CBC article from November 2023, Canada Premiers United in their criticism of federal housing policy. Another CBC article from July 2024, Premiers gather in Halifax with a message for Trudeau, stick to your lane. This was, Federation wrote to Trudeau asking him to refrain from unilateral actions. And the third one that I'd like to table, so it's on the record, is Director Thasuska's report from September 20th, where he references the Mayor's Task Force on Housing report, where he says it provided clear data indicating there is sufficient existing residential lands to meet future growth demands. This reduces the need for sporadic rezoning, especially in predominantly industrial areas like the one in question, and that was in regard to Greenwood Drive. But it's all the same, really. I guess I just wanted to, sorry, I have the glasses on and off because I can't really see. So I want to thank everybody that couldn't be here tonight. I know we got a lot of messages, and it's a busy time of year for families, with their kids' schedules after school, and they wanted to know they appreciated everything council and staff have done on this to date. Everything they've requested for the most part has been answered and provided. But more people wish they could have been here, but they said they trust that, council is going to consider all the facts. I also appreciate that we waited until Ken was in place. I think that was loud and clear from the residents when we had our open house, and I think council very much felt that we were hearing a lot from the residents that Ken represents, and we represent everybody, but still it's nice to have your person at the table when you're making the decisions. And I think he's probably had a hard and fast, and Ken was going door to door when it was all happening, so he was hearing it firsthand, whereas the rest of us, are getting emails and stuff. He had a lot of one-on-one conversations with people that were likely pretty meaningful. So I appreciate that we were able to wait for that. So I guess I'll just get into the reason why I'm a no on this. And there's a lack of studies done in several areas, such as infrastructure for the city, what our needs are, and what the financial implications are going to be. CMHC has repeatedly sent out stats that state the city is not in a housing crisis. The last few points of the application that we sent in, the last few points that were added to it were added by the federal government. I tabled the Mayor's Task Force Housing Report, and I tabled the 2 documents stating the Premier's indicating to the federal government in November and again in July that the federal government was overstepping by going directly to municipalities. When it comes to housing agreements like this, the province needs to be involved. The province is responsible for education, healthcare, et cetera, all our social programming. That also goes, they're responsible for that in our city as well. Currently, this council, yes, as we just seen from Prince County Foundation, we have been at the forefront in helping the hospital move forward and get what they need in terms of staffing and being there to support them. But it's not our job. We're just lending a helping hand. It's the responsibility of the province. So in terms of education, we have students that are currently spend their days learning in non-learning environments, such as cafeterias, rooms that do not have external lights and like windows and so on, and it's overcrowded. We are currently moving in a mobile to Elm Street, and there's other schools that when you talk to people at the door, their schools are also facing this issue. I totally disagree when people get online or in person and they say, this is NIMBY, not in my backyard. That's not what this is about. People who are able to should have the right to choose where they live. If you're fortunate enough to be in that situation, and you want to move to a certain area, if I wanted to live in town, then I would have moved in town. If I wanted to live where I live, then I moved where I live. When I moved in, I didn't move in expecting there would be multi-unit around me in any way. Not saying that there's not a time and a place for it, but when you move in expecting this is what's going to be in the area, it's not like it was a blank canvas. There was something, it was already zoned something. So that's where the NIMBY issue sort of hits with me. It's not NIMBY. It's just another example of like when we went through amalgamation and we were told it was going to be one way, and now all of a sudden we're being told, no, it's not that way. So that's, and it's also the services that come with it, right? Like, we have to remember that. Like, we have our little, not quarrels, but discussions about services every budget and what we think each ward needs and deserves and what our residents think they need and deserve. So I really think that this has opened the eyes to a lot of residents about why they moved, where they moved, what their expectations were when they moved there, and what their future is in that area for them and their family. Other provinces are threatening to enact legislation that will stop Ottawa from going around the province. I don't want to be involved in that because our city agreed to something that our province is not agreeing to. There are no facts being presented that this will reduce rents, which is what people are struggling with daily. I don't have an answer for that, and I wish I did, but I don't. But I do know that this is not going, for many developers I've talked to that are going to be opening multi-unit buildings, this is not the answer. And that's from a developer. This is not the answer. Quick count, there are 10 that I quickly counted, multi-unit buildings currently under construction in Summerside. Somebody said there might have been 13, but I could think of just like 10 off the top of my head. And they're all varying sizes. They're all more than 4. 12 might be the smallest units, and they're all in varying steps of completion. So I guess I'd just like to see those and what we have open now being filled before we tie our hands to an agreement that is really, it's not benefiting anybody. I guess, why would we want to be involved in something that the provincial government will not be involved in, and that's where our health and welfare and education services are coming from? I don't want to be at battle with a province who didn't want to be involved in something. I don't think that's fair for our residents. And why do we want to cause so much discussion in a community, negative discussion in a community, when it's just a little over $5 million? And you guys were all here for the Prince County Hospital Foundation. You've seen on the slides, like that little bit of housing. I think he had $8 million, Derek, had up on the screen. Like, I know $1 million is a lot of money. But in the scheme of things, when it comes to infrastructure, it's nothing. It is really nothing to be selling our soul for. So I'm a no.
Councillor Duron?
Thank you, Your Worship. I prepared some notes today, not a lot, just 2 full pages, single-spaced. I sort of struggled, even just listening to Councillor Adams, whether or not to sort of kind of read through how I prepared it, which, I mean, it may be obvious as I begin how I sort of stand, but I really wanted to just say right, I guess, on the onset, just so I'm not dragging everybody here kind of through my words and make you wonder, what is he thinking, what is he thinking? I am supporting this evening. So I'll still read the 2 pages, just so I can at least explain how I arrived at the decision. So throughout the entire process, I realized that I made 2 mistakes. The first one, I think, was somewhat of a selfish one. I love being a councillor, and I love helping, shape the city. But I think my point of view on these, on this proposal and on these issues sort of became blurred between wanting to make sure that I made the right decision for the city and the community, and the decision that would, at the end of the day, likely or probably help secure, getting reelected, if that's sort of the path that I chose, if and when the time comes. So, and the more and more people who spoke out against this, the more pressure I felt as well to do that. And I think the blinders went on with respect to what I thought was good policy versus, what can I do, if anything, to just get the approval of the residents. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know we're all here. We're all elected to be the voice for our ward residents. But as we heard Ken read through his oath, we're also obligated to try to represent the city as a whole the best we can. So that's where I found myself in so much conflict over these last few weeks, months really. The second mistake I made was putting too much weight on some of the, and I was guilty of it as well, some of the speculation and some of the sort of fears. When something major is proposed like this, I know people tend to immediately jump to some of the worst cases, and I do the same thing, and a lot of the what ifs. I think it's a natural first reaction, especially when there's a perceived threat to one's own neighborhood. So I tried to sort of come up with example scenarios where, I mean, we did a lot of talk around 4 units and townhouses and row houses, and where those would appear in a developed neighborhood, and the possibility of that taking place. The more and more I sort of talked to people and looked into it, it just didn't seem that it was going to be an entirely realistic. It's possible, absolutely, likely, no. And I mean, just as an example, the average cost of, say, like an existing single-family dwelling on PEI last month was $387,000. So for someone to come into a developed lot and want to put a 4-unit townhouse or row house there, they're going to have to buy that property, they're going to have to demolish it, and that's a significant investment before construction would even begin on that 4-unit, which is capped at 35 feet. And I mean, I don't think anybody would go down that path just to collect some, modestly rental income. It just doesn't make sense to me. I understand from reading the policy that the only places that are likely to see this type of new construction are mostly the newer undeveloped areas and the vacant lots. There's certainly vacant lots in developed areas, don't get me wrong. But I think that's mainly what this policy is focused on. I think those lots that are existing and that are currently developed on, or the empty ones rather, they still need to meet the strict setbacks and area. So, I mean, again, just for the 4-unit townhouse, you still need the current setback from the street, which is 6 meters. And that's the same for single-family homes, duplexes, row houses, townhouses. No. Those setbacks already exist. So for those who say politics aren't personal or shouldn't be personal, I don't think you could be further from the truth. Over the last few weeks, I found myself talking with or emailing people or texting or just seeing people I've gotten to know here in the gallery. So a lot of those people were not in favor of these changes. Some were. Others didn't care. But unfortunately, over the last 6 years, it's always been the ones who seem to be really passionately against something are the ones that show up, which is great. But I really, and I've said this before, I really wish more people that were supportive of some of these things would show up as well. I see people like Susan and Bill are here behind the chair there. You two were one of the first. You were the first ones that when I was going around door to door in 2018, who kind of invited me in off the doorstep and into the home. And you wanted to actually get to know me and history, and I haven't forgotten that. And it's those little interactions that sort of they really tug on the way I try and arrive at these decisions, like we have to make tonight. I have a lot of pride in the way that I arrive at some of these votes. People have often told me that although they don't agree with every decision that I make here in council, they do appreciate the way that I always try to explain how and why I arrive at the decisions that I do. This one before us this evening, I've been back and forth many times on both sides of it. Just yesterday, I was against this yesterday, and so I mean, I've been back and forth for months. And the day before, I was for it. Like you consider different things at different times, and ultimately, you have to come up with your decision. So. At the end of the day, I guess I found myself, like most of you who come to these, have been coming to these meetings. I'm all in on 99% of these changes, and I am hung up a little bit on some of the pieces, but I think we have some room. We are still able to tweak some of these things after. Maybe not necessarily, 4 units as of right things, but I did hear from people who I thought had absolutely legitimate concerns, and I shared those same concerns. There were some, I think, in my opinion anyway, who had some different, not so valid concerns. Some concerns seemed, like a little nearsighted with incorrect data, but there were many more who had extremely well thought out concerns, and many of them I had to find answers to myself in order to consider. So of those people who I felt had some real, cases for concerns, a majority of those points I was luckily able to confirm and point to a piece in the proposal that sort of alleviated those concerns for me anyway. So heading into this evening, really what helped me as a bit of an aid, I basically had a table, and all the concerns that have come into me and come into us, I kind of had them in the table in different rows, and I had columns for things that were incorrect, and I had a column for things that I was also very concerned about, but I had found answers to those things, so I was able to sort of negate some of those, and I had a column for things that honestly still concern me. But overall, the column with the most entries was the one where I could, point to a relevant section of the plan and say, okay, I don't think this is a concern for me now because this is what the policy is. I realize that people are going to be disappointed in the way that how I've made the decision tonight, but I guess that's part of holding this role that I said earlier that I love so much. I will continue to address things that I can on a day-to-day basis, issues with yards and crosswalk flags and all those things that I'm able to do rather quickly, and I think I have a record of doing those things that speak for itself, and I'll continue to be available for calls and emails and texts and Facebook chats. So, and I guess in closing, I will say that this was, without a doubt, just hands down the most difficult decision that I've had to make since being elected. Like I said, I was convinced on both sides for months and months, even up until today. My wife has this thing that she does when we're in bed at night. No, Bruce, not that. She'll randomly ask, what are you thinking about? And if I have to say the City of Summerside official plan, bylaw one more time, I think she's going to leave me. But so that's where I am, and I hope we can move on should this go through, or should it not. And I'm available for chats as I was before. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, move on to Councillor McDougall, who's got his light on next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess no one in the room has to guess what side of the fence I'm standing on. I have been there since this process came forward. I've had many conversations with the mayor. I just, this process that we went through, there's 90 to 95% of this plan that I think is great. We needed to do it. We need to the 4 units as of right is not right in this. We went through ditch infilling process for years, and we finally came to a compromise on it. We don't want to compromise on this. It's as a right. I think it's wrong that somebody in Ottawa is telling me that what I'm supposed to have beside my house just for $5.8 million, and that's wrong. I'm proud of that. I've been around this council chambers for a long time, and this one here has weighed as heavy on me as any of them. And I think I've stayed here because I've listened to the people, and I continue to listen to the people, and I've met with the Moose. I've had as many people from outside my ward contact me as there has been inside. And, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I'm not supporting this tonight, and I hope that this is voted down, and if it is voted down, I'll be the first one at the table to come up and come with a compromise of something, but not the 4 units as a right, because we've had all these people in all these subdivisions, like I said before, the subdivisions in the outside communities, they all have 75 by 125 foot lots, and I just wanted to correct something that Councillor Duran said about the setbacks, and that the setback is your front yard setback is only 19.6, I think it is, where most of the houses on the street is probably in the vicinity of 40, 45 feet. And, so that person, if the house burnt down next to you and somebody put up a 4 unit, you're going to be looking at 4 back doors 8 garbage cans, et cetera, right? And that's not wrong. That's not what built this city. The people that established these neighborhoods, you know, whether it's Bluebell, whether it's Fairview subdivision, all over the city. You know, we have people that built nice homes there that raised their family in them, and that's what they're for. And I just think by not trying to get there through secondary suites, which I thought we were doing in the first place, you know, I can get to the 3 or 4 unit with the secondary suites in the existing subdivisions and open the 4 unit up to any new subdivision. I thought that that's a compromise that we could all live with. But to come forward and with this proposal as is proposed, I cannot support it, and so I'm urging council to turn this down and let's go back to the drawing board. Thanks.
Could I just ask one thing? That, like, we have councillors making statements that sound like they're fact, and I don't want to be persuaded one way or the other. If Councillor McDougall says, he said 6 meters, and I think he said 19 feet, so.
19.6 feet.
Yeah, so I think if you do the math, I think we're pretty close to the same thing. So I just want to make sure that everybody, so if we're going to make comments, I just want them to be factual, and if staff have a factual.
Sure.
Could we correct it, please?
Sure, so they're both correct. One was metric and one's imperial. One's been here for 30 years. The last piece I would say is, again, I've mentioned this before to members of the public, our rules and requirements and our procedural bylaws ask members of the public not to cheer or boo members of council. Members of council are up here in front of you making really, really difficult decisions. Understand sometimes it's certainly great to have the public engaged, but that can also put a lot of pressure and stress, and I think that's on members of council, and I think that's why it's in our procedural bylaws. So I would just remind folks that cheering or booing one way or the other is for Saturday night at the Caps game, but here I'd ask people to be respectful of councillors as they make their decisions. And with this, I'll go to Councillor Cameron and then to Councillor McCollum. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to start, I feel like no one's going to say this was an easy decision to make, because it certainly was not. I actually just had the conversation with Bruce not that long ago that up until this point, I haven't found a lot of things stressful in this role. I have found that things have been pretty clear which way I should be voting based on my own opinion of where I think the city should go, also based on city staff and the opinions of the public. But this has kept me up, and as a person who doesn't sleep well to begin with, that is not ideal, but that's what I signed up for. It's very hard right now to balance the future of Summerside and also keeping residents happy. I really thought from the beginning that I knew where I was going, and then we had a public meeting, and hearing concerns from residents really did shake me, and it made me really question which way I would vote on this. That being said, I still asked publicly twice at 2 separate meetings for someone to truly explain this to me because of where I grew up, how I grew up, where I've chosen to live. And to be perfectly frank, I did not have that from anyone. I got emails sent to me from other councillors who had issues brought to them. Most of them were pretty vague of, I don't want my neighborhood to change dynamics and my property values. And those are legitimate concerns. I will definitely say that those are legitimate concerns. I still just can't seem to wrap my head around why having those things in your neighborhood is such a bad thing. My neighborhood's quiet. My neighborhood is very collective. My neighborhood has everything that I could possibly want or possibly need in it. To go back to the 75-foot by 125-foot properties that Bruce has mentioned, it was said by We6 that 4 units townhouses or row houses would not fit on those properties. But you are not a city planner, and they have said that it will not fit on those properties. And in theory, 3 units could, but most likely wouldn't. That, to me, is a big game changer, because it just does show that most of the units, or most of the vacant lots in Summerside, that wouldn't affect them. So I have no choice, but I support where this is going, and I will be in support of the decision tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll move on to,
Can we get something clarified?
we've had, since this has been
Yeah,
in
we
front
were
of council
told,
since.
we were
just-
told,
I-
we were
I'm in the
told
middle-
that
I'm
the,
Councillor, I am speaking. I'm just saying this
Okay.
has been in front of us since August 12th.
right,
So now is the opportunity for members of council to
Yeah.
say their piece and what their interpretation, if there are differences in interpretation, this isn't the time where we're going to start
I just
doing up
need something
lines. But
clarified.
if
Right.
you need a clarification,
Yeah.
it can go after Councillor McCollum, who's up to speak
Okay.
next.
Deputy Mayor was allowed, so.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to reiterate, just as the mayor was saying, and for all of us, this is the first time that we've been able to talk freely, because we had to be very impartial sitting through all of the sessions. So tonight, this is something that we have really tried to look through the lens of each person's letters or emails or the public meeting. And I just wanted to say, basically, Prince Edward Island, we all know, is the smallest province in Canada. I think in many ways that it is a plus, and it has assets in so many ways. However, because we are a small province, that doesn't mean islanders can be bought, or we don't know our worth and what we have as valuable assets on this island. Some people may not see this important value and need to be convinced once it's gone or sold off, or the changing of the official plan zone, then we've lost it forever. We can't go back. We can do amendments possibly, but when we sell off the island's natural beauty, its tranquility, and agricultural land, and block water views for all people to enjoy, or lose or upset the ebb and flow of marshes or wetlands that support smaller wildlife habitat to live in their natural environment, we ultimately lose a relaxed, slower pace if we choose to. We lose it and we don't get it back. And we need to sometimes remember that bigger is not always better. Do we need to improve and develop and progress in areas? Yes, we certainly do. Do we need to do it at an accelerated pace? I do not believe that this is a good thing personally, as we can easily miss the bigger picture and building block approach that comes from well thought out improvement plans and carefully staged for development and growth areas, and in moderation and time sequences, with measured steps and benchmarks for planned, realistic growth that Summerside can manage and is prepared for, with the needed resources and services strengthened and in place that will accommodate the growth realistically. Because we are prepared for it with the needed resources and services, that will accommodate the growth. As a community, we cannot add increased pressures we are not able to maintain without creating further bottlenecks and frustrations from our community and residents. For example, with the schools at capacity and overcrowding, Prince County Hospital, the intensive care unit at frontline emergency services, policing, firefighters, a needed updated emergency fire hall and warming center, increases of retaining doctors and nurses and emergency rooms with very long waits are things that really we are trying to make such a priority, which it is a provincial responsibility that we try to partner with. The lens that I was trying to be looking through is that I've totally reflected on this process, and I know that council has listened and really tried to hear the residents, both the residents that are for the change to the zone, but also the residents that want to see the changes as well. I'm not fully confident we have reached the bar that the decision and vote before council has proven its merits for the success that we hope for, and that we are able to maintain a level of necessary services, infrastructure, fire, police, and emergency, increased demands on these services. These are all potential of adding further burdens to the municipality through the Housing Accelerator Fund. And finally, as one resident spoke at the public meetings, it comes across to people that Summerside is changing the rules of the game with the official zoning plan in the middle of the game, when people have already invested in their homes, their neighborhoods, and to them they feel it is very unfair. And it's also quite hurtful when people are labeled as NIMBYs for trying to defend how they feel and their neighborhood and their homes. Summerside is an entrepreneurial city, and our residents are proud of the fact that the city owns its very own over 100-year electric utility. To make a point, for the city to be told on the Housing Accelerator Fund, it was an all-on-the-table offer, or take it or leave it, when it came to how many apartment buildings we would need to meet for that $5.8 million. For me, that was very pivotal, because I feel that the closest order of government to the people is the municipal order of government. And if we lose that trust, or if people feel like they can't talk to us and we're not going to listen, and I know that all council members have listened, I feel that that is something that, for me, I felt like the federal government was calling those criteria shots from Ottawa to us as a municipality. And I think Island people are very proud, and it was something that I think resonated with me. As a municipality, what we have, I believe and understand the needs best for, or we understand best the needs for our municipality when it comes to housing. We need to invest in the best interests for Summerside and our residents, and we should not gamble what we have already going for us as a municipality. We need affordable and attainable housing, not high-end apartments that people cannot cover high rents. With respect, we have paid consultants who do not live in Summerside, and when this process is completed, they will leave. We will still be here living in Summerside, and we will have the headaches of dealing with any shortfalls or development challenges that could arise because of the acceleration plans of building. To move forward is not a decision I am 100% comfortable with. I feel we need moderation and careful planning, which includes our city staff with many years of experience that live here. I believe, based on the incoming emails, phone calls, and the September 26th public meeting from our residents, a high majority of informed and relevant residents of all ages, walks of life, and neighborhoods have done much speaking out and their homework on statistics, housing stock vacancies, and other factors. And finally, I feel our municipality identity and strength is better served by stepping back from the federal government's Housing Accelerator Fund and drastically changing our official plan for dense housing options with a we have to take it all or nothing approach. I will not be voting in favor of this decision for those reasons.
Again, thanks. Just a reminder again on the applause. Thank you, Councillor McColman. Councillor McDougall, do you want to pass on your query there to staff, and then we'll move on to Councillor Morrison, and we'll see if staff can get you an answer.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, Gordon, you had stated at one of the meeting we had at the credit union place that you didn't think we're going to fit on that 75 by 125 or whatever it was. But I've heard in the meantime that they do fit. Can you clarify that? Do they fit or do they not?
Councilman McDougall, you asked that question, and staff and consultants took a look at it before the public meeting. I think we answered that at the public meeting, that any typical 4-unit row house, townhouse, not going to fit on the lot as you described it. I did say at the public meeting, there's no, I guess, guarantee that if a builder wanted to build, I don't know how to put this, not politely, but tiny like a 4-unit row house where the units were tiny, that you might not be able to squeeze that on, but typical row house townhouses that have been developed in Summerside over the last number of years, as we stated, would not fit on the lot as you would describe it.
Would not fit. Okay.
Thanks,
That's,
Councillor.
okay.
Thanks, staff. We'll go to Councillor Morrison. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you, Your Worship. It is a tough decision, and I've listened to people for, well, in actual fairness, we've been working on this basically, I'd like to say for 18 months, when you go back to the Mayor's task force on housing, and then with the W6 planning group, and sitting around council and having public meetings and listening to all the people, and I've heard a lot of them, and I might as well say right off the bat that I'm in favor of this resolution. And I have numerous reasons why, and I won't drag it out a whole lot to explain them, but one of the ones that hasn't been mentioned yet tonight, which to me is extremely important, is PEI was always known as a million-acre farm. And back when I was born, 1.1, and I got to be careful, and I might be wrong, these numbers, but they're pretty close to being accurate. 1.1 million acres of farmable land. Today, a little over 600,000. So we have to build smarter, and we have to be, we have to become more dense, and certainly inside urban areas like Summerside, that's where you want to be, like as far as building up instead of building out, to do our part to help. The other thing in my mind, what that really does is we as a council can do two things when it comes to revenue. We can basically cut services or raise taxes. And from all indications that I'm getting, is we're not very far from doing one or both of those things. And I'm extremely opposed to both. So this way, if we infill our community and our city a little bit and make it more dense, we create and make a whole lot more new revenue, which hopefully eliminates having to do either one of those previous things. If you look around Summerside, especially the older part of Summerside, there's all kinds of examples of especially older homes that have been turned into anywhere from 3 to 10 units in the middle of residential areas. Some of them have been there 50, 60 years, and in most cases, there's zero issues being caused by that. So to Councillor Cameron's comments, he grew up in a community like that. Justin knows what I'm talking about, and he understands the same thing. We've been through this. In the ward that I represent, I can take you out and show you places where there's a residential home, and beside it there's a duplex or a triplex or 4 units or row houses or townhouses. And it's, those people seem to be getting along pretty good, and it's not causing a whole lot of issues. I just think we're doing the right thing. This plan, I don't know if it's a pretty big plan. You can pick out 1 or 2 things quite easily and say that that's not right, or I don't agree with that. But we have to have an official plan. We've been reviewing this for quite a while. I think it's a good plan. It's going in the right direction, and I think it'll help with the growth of Summerside. I often think back to a few things when we look at these and make these decisions. I look at what happened in the past to try to learn for the future, and I often wonder in my mind, where would we be today if they wouldn't allowed Hillcrest Housing to do what they did? And there's 300 plus units up there. They've been there since, give or take, 1960, 62, 63. It fits. It's not a big issue. It works. And I just think there can be more of that in the future. There can be more housing. The professionals tell us we're missing the middle piece, and this is going to help solve some of those problems. So there's more reasons than that, but for the ones that I've just mentioned, I'm in favor of this resolution. I have to vote in my heart with what I think is good for the city of Summerside, not what's good for the West End, not what's good for the East End, not what's good for Hillcrest, Wilmot, or St. Helens. What's good for the city of Summerside. And I think this plan is good for the city of Summerside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We have two other councillors who haven't spoken. I'm going to open it up if you do want to share comments. We'll start with Deputy Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I want to apologize because I was not at the public meeting that I couldn't see how many people were there, but I heard it was a fairly good crowd, so I want to apologize for not being there. But I was out of town on some personal things that I really didn't have a choice. But I did watch the video live and then watched it back several times and have been involved in the other public meetings and have been receiving feedback both for and against, both in my neighborhood and outside my area. I need to say, as a father with young kids who are growing up in the city, there was a lovely young lady that spoke at the meeting, and I was listening to her, and she mentioned, you know, I really want to live in a house just like we are now, and I totally understood that. But as a child of a single mother who didn't necessarily get to do that and had to make my own way to find a way to get into a house that now I own, I had to go up through living in a 4-unit apartment building. I had to live in those things in the middle of neighborhoods that had existing housing. And from the beginning of this, I really do believe we have the best city on PEI in Atlantic Canada, and I'm sure everybody that lives in other cities and towns across Canada think that about their town and city. But I really, truly believe that in my heart. And I was a little bit taken back by what I call fear of people of what might move in beside them, because if there was a possibility of a 4-unit building. A lot of the concern, and I said this at one of the previous meetings we had, a lot of the concerns seem to be coming from areas that are really beautiful areas in the city, and areas that I would be like, geez, I'd love to live in that area. I don't. I live in the West End, and I think the West End's a beautiful area of the city. The people there are amazing people. They're tell you how they feel in a hurry. But I like that. But there's lots of beautiful houses in this city. And to Councillor Duran's point earlier, when you do the math of some of the houses that I would personally love to own at some point, it doesn't make financial sense to be scared of what some people are really scared of. You can't buy a $400,000, $500,000 home, then convert that and make it make financial sense to a 4-unit building. The first meeting we had here that was a public one, there were some residents, and I think they were from Carey's ward. They were older people, and I was talking to them, and they lived in row houses, conveniently enough, out in that area. And they were concerned about other fourplexes and other stuff that was going to be built, and I spoke to them and tried to explain it's very similar to what you're living in, and you guys look like great people, and you contribute to that neighborhood just like everybody else in that neighborhood. So I understand where people get some initial fear and concern anytime there's a change or something they feel is a threat. As a father, I do the same thing. If something's threatening my kids or my area, I would quickly go there as well. But we have been through this process for 18 months. We have been flooded with information, more information than most of us can take in, to be quite honest. And I think we're getting stuck on a few areas that when you first hear it, it seems concerning, because you see the initial, well, that could be a massive change for my area. But big picture, I do think there's a lot of things in this proposal that works. The $5 million, I agree, it's $5 million. I mean, it's better than no dollars, but $5 million, that's not what, that has nothing to do with my decision. I do think this is good policy on growth. I do think 5 years, 10 years down the road, I think, and if I'm wrong, please remind me in 5, 10 years, if I'm here or not here, but please remind me, say, and you really messed up on that one, Corey, because you for sure, tell me, I mean that, I would like to know, but, and in the time of making decisions, you have to make the decisions with the information you have in front of you. And I think based on the information we have in front of you, this is good policy that means good growth for our city. And the areas that are coming forward with the most concerns, I don't think you will see the negative impact you're concerned of. So based on that, I will be supporting this. I do think, and I do think my fellow councilors put a lot of work, time, and effort into this, and I thank them all for that. City staff have put a ton of time and effort into this, and it is time to make a decision, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. Councillor Trenholm?
So I purposely have talked last year because any second I can have to learn more information about this is important. When I went door to door, the biggest thing I think I said was that I want to be a voice of the people. I firmly believe that. It was a lot easier saying that at the door than it is right now, because when I guess there's questions about housing, and I know people have said that housing is not in need. I've just come from visiting people door to door, so I just want to let you know that if you may be aware that there's a person who in my 10 days of meeting that person, they passed away. And that person wouldn't have passed away if they had suitable housing. It was very emotional for me. Recently there's been a legally blind lady who got lost, and this person struggled across the street. And I happened to be there, so I took this person's hand and walked them back across the street, and they were blessed that they didn't get hit by a car. With appropriate housing supports, that would never have happened. I've met grandparents, and there's 3 generations living in 2 bedrooms. They pay 50% of their income on rent. People with various forms of disability, they're unable to work, and they don't know, with the rising costs, what's going to happen next week, next month. With appropriate housing, that wouldn't be an issue. When we're looking at, there's a lady who was literally bleeding behind her eyes, and she needed to tell me about her needs to find a place to live. And now we all know what's going on with Evergreen Village. There's 57 trailers, and they could not have homes very quickly. So that speaks to a need that, let's focus, a need of housing. And speaking for Ward 5 on Mivenley Trailer Park, there's a lot of concerns that same may happen to them. So what exactly does this, if we talk about 5.8 million, and what does it mean? There's 10 points, and I don't know if we've talked about that today. I don't think we have, and maybe we haven't talked about it much, but I'll leave the glasses on. To facilitate accessory dwelling units. Okay, so we're looking at targeting 15 units over 3 years. Okay, 15 units over 3 years. Okay, if you're looking at multi-generational families living together, let's say there is the person who's blind and needs help and support. Let's say there is a grandmother who's had hip surgery and they need to live, and they can be supported in that way and still have the independence. Right? Number 2 is zoning to develop housing for vulnerable populations. That includes a zoning to amend the bylaw to permit transitional and affordable housing. Right? So currently, we need to go through a restricted use application for that to happen. And we know this, of the massive amount of objections that could have. So putting this into the bylaw, that would sustain, and for people who don't know, transitional, I've met with people and they've recovered from addictions, and there is no place for them to go. There is no place. Number 3, we're going to incentivize redevelopment of existing properties. So I know we've all looked around Summerside and said, listen, there's properties that are abandoned or we can work with, right? We're going to work towards those. Develop design requirements for missing middle housing, 25 units over 3 years. So it's 25 units in all of Summerside over 3 years. So I've heard plenty that people don't want the high-rise apartments, the high-rise skyliners, I guess. But this is exactly what we're talking about, making things more affordable for the missing middle. And this is exactly what the plan is proposing that it can do. It does go down. I won't repeat them all, I suppose, but updating a flood plan. If you're looking at the CHIP, which is the Coastal Hazards Information Platform, our city is shrinking. It's disappearing into the water. And so what this plan will do, funding for this plan, will put that in place. And so it does go on, but I'm looking at a climate change action plan, adaptation plan. And I think when you're looking at, I know there's been so much, and believe me, I've heard so many concerns and I've listened to people, but I do have to be honest with you. I've talked to 445 people in Ward 5, 445 people. 25 talked about the 4 units as a right being an issue. Many more talked about the 10-story apartment buildings being an issue. So if you recall, I stood up at the public meeting and I brought that issue forward in terms of that being an issue for the 10 stories. And I said, potentially, could we go to 6? I guess I don't think it's been talked about yet, but that is part of the strategy, that it would go from to 6 as a right, and the potential to be, council would have to approve the 10. So that's another aspect. And the other issue I had, the residents had, was that if, let's say if a property is abutting our R1, and so it started out being a 10-story, then it went to a 4-story, and then staff and council conceded or compromised to 3.5, so basically going down to an R3. So I think there has been that effort there to compromise. And I will say too, I sent out a survey. I know emails are typically, maybe they go in the spam folder. There was 19 people who responded, so I was really hoping that there would be hundreds of people to respond to maybe better inform me of concerns or that, but there was 19. And obviously people didn't get it, but I use that as well, that we can't generalize those 19 comments. And certainly I've been privy to reading all of the concerns that have been brought forward. But I think the voice, for me, being the voice of the people, is honoring the people that, I guess you could say, the quiet majority, who, when I went to the door, that wasn't their concern, right? So they had other concerns. But I certainly want to acknowledge and respect that the issues that were brought forward to me by the residents of Ward 5, definitely I heard them, definitely I understand them, and most of them I can appreciate, because if you buy the property, that's where you want to live, right? Like if you buy a property and there's a farm, or if there's a field there, that's exactly where I want my life to be. That's where I want it to stay, and it's my enjoyment. But I think in order for us to meet, and in order for us to meet the housing demands, and I just quickly looked on MLS, no formal study, but there's 2 units that are under 100,000, and there's 2 more that are under 200,000. So there's not a lot there within the city of Summerside that people could afford. So I guess that's it, and I would also expect that people would be disappointed with my vote as well. But in terms of looking at the city as a whole, and the oath I just took, and doing what is right for the city as a whole, I'll be voting yes.
Thank you, Councillor Trenholm. And thank you to all of council. And I think I'll just provide my concluding remarks. Before I was even elected, I said I would not get up here and tell you I only get to vote in case of a tie, which is the truth. But I said even when there is not a tie, you'll know where I stand. Tonight's vote has been a long process. This package was originally before council on August 12th. That's 99 days. That is certainly the longest of any policy that we have seen here at the city, and we started that process even before the package was introduced to council. I want to thank the staff and volunteers and community members who have contributed along the way, and members of the public who have shared their input, opinions, thoughts, and perspectives. They are incredibly valuable. And I really wanted to thank council, not for a vote one way or another, but for approaching this thoughtfully, constructively, and being open. It is difficult for all of us up here sometimes to open ourselves up and speak from the heart, but I think it's really valuable, so I thank council for doing that. In an uncertain world, we certainly are fortunate to be able to engage in this peaceful and constructive way, and public policy making is not always easy, and big solutions, big challenges require big solutions. So with my closing remarks, I just wanted to share with you my sort of the very core of my thinking on this in a way that's concise. I've spoken to many of the details and responded to the details at length for months and months and months. I have visited residents in their homes. I have walked the east-west housing corridor with residents. I have gone to public meetings. I have talked to people at every single opportunity, and I have not waited to get feedback. I have engaged with every single person that I have seen. I've asked them, what do you think about it? And if they don't know about it, I've explained to them generally what it is and look for their feedback. And in my role, I'm fortunate. I get to do that. I do that all day long. And so for me, this isn't about housing. It is about people. I think too many people in Summerside cannot get the housing that they need. I have seen too many families with their kids. I have seen too many seniors who do not know what they're going to do or where they're going to live because there is not housing that meets their needs at this time in their life. And I've seen the fear of people in public meetings to talk about how it will impact traffic or how it may change the character of their neighborhood. And the look in the eyes of a mom and a dad when their kids are sitting there and they don't know what's going to happen next year or where they're going to go is a different kind of fear. So I think that the form a house takes, be it if it's a duplex, a townhouse, or an apartment, matters far less than the people who need a house. I think the process we put in place here to find solutions, and this is what our role is here to find solutions, has been a good one, and it has been driven by our community for our community. I know a lot of people have said, I've read the editorials that said this is a federal government forcing us to do something, and I disagree. The city created a housing needs assessment that had data before it that showed us what kind of housing pressures we had today and what kind of pressures we'd have in the future. When I was elected, we put in force a housing task force, A task force involved, had members of council on it. It also had members from social services. It had developers. It had builders. It had lenders. It had government experts. And it had experts from here in our community. And if you go back and read that task force, the things that that task force recommended to this council and that council received and said they wanted to implement are the things that are in this policy. It is eliminating exclusionary zoning. Those are the things that are in front of us. This policy did not come up from the federal government. So I think the process was a good one. I think the Housing Accelerator Fund came in after we were already doing the work that we know we needed to be doing. So I think we would be here today whether it was for them or not. And I will tell you, we are in the housing situation that we are in because of failures of other levels of government. And I don't think their failures, whether it's on housing or anything else, should be our responsibility. Our responsibility is to fix the needs and to create solutions for members of our community. So I think we can lead the way towards a brighter future that will lift up those in our community who need it the most. We can create housing that is adequate in condition, appropriate in size, affordable in cost, accessible to services, available in all neighborhoods across our incredible city, that meets the needs and economic reality of our residents today and in the years ahead. And I think this proposal before council tonight is the single most impactful policy action we can do to make this happen. I think if we do this, Summerside will be better. And I know these are not easy decisions to make, but I think we cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. And it says here, if called in the event of a tie, I will be voting in favor, but I certainly would be, I'm always supporting whatever council's ultimate decision is. But if you're a baseball fan like I am and you're keeping score, I may not need to do that, but I wanted you to know that's where I stood and the reasons why. So with that, resolution COS 24083, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Cameron, has been on the floor. I'll now call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ayes, 3 nays. Councillor Adams, Councillor McColman, Councillor McDougall. So the ayes have it by a 5-3 vote. Councillor Duran, on to you for the next resolution, please.
Resolution COS 24-084, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas the City of Summerside has been successful in receiving CMHC funding under the Housing Accelerator Fund program, and whereas the initiatives under the successful application involve a number of policy adjustments and planning updates, including in relation to the city's east-west connector growth node, legalizing 4 units on residential lots, increasing densification around post-secondary institutions, and reducing exclusionary zoning. And whereas the city has undertaken steps to meet initial milestones under the initiatives and begin the implementation of the recommendations of the Task Force on Attainable Housing, and whereas the city has determined to repeal the City of Summerside zoning bylaw SS15 and replace it with the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40, and whereas the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40 was read and formally approved a first time at the council meeting held on June 19th, 2024, and whereas the following amendments to the proposed zoning bylaw CS40 have been identified following first reading. And there are a number of them, and I think we've elected to read them all in because they are part of the resolution. So. Number 1 in section 2, zoning definitions. 1.1, definition of secondary suite under accessory dwelling unit. The deletion of the word and the substitution of the word or between a semi-detached dwelling unit and a townhouse dwelling unit. 1.2, the addition of the defined term garden suite following the definition of garage and cross-reference to accessory dwelling unit. 1.3, definition of secondary suite. The addition of the word accessory between the words see and dwelling. In section 2, subsection 8.3, ancillary residence. 2.1, the deletion of 1 after the word institutional and substitution of the letter I. And 2.2 in B, the deletion of the words grade facing the front lot line and shall not occupy the ground floor after the words shall not be located at, and the substitution of the words street level. Number 3, in subsection 8.24, accessory dwelling units, ADUs. 3.1, the deletion of all references to the words primary residence or main residence where they appear, and the substitution of the words main dwelling. 3.2, the deletion in Part B3 of the words in a new building, and the substitution of the words new or converted building containing a before the words garden suite in the second sentence. 3.3, the deletion in Part B7, Roman numerals, of the words 1.2 meters, 4 feet, and the substitution of the words 2 meters, 6 feet. And the deletion of the words shall be located a minimum of 2 meters, 6.6 feet from the main residence, and the substitution of the minimum separation distance from the main dwelling shall be required under the Summerside Building Bylaw SS09. Number 4, in section 11, landscape buffer standards. 4.1, in subsection 11.1, the deletion of the word were between the words in cases and lot lines, and the substitution of the word where. 4.2, in subsection 11.6, the deletion of the words table 11-1 following the words the standards laid out in, and the addition of the word table following the words and setback standards. And section 4.3, in the table in subsection 11.6, the deletion in the table title of the words table 11-1. Number 5, in the low-density residential R1 zone. 5.1, in subsection 15.3, the deletion of apartment building up to 4 dwelling units per building from the table of permitted uses. 5.2, in the table in subsection 15.6, the deletion of the words apartment building slash, following the words duplex dwelling slash, and the addition of dwelling after the words row house. 5.3, the addition of the following as a new 15.7. All new row houses and townhouses shall be designed and built in a manner that is compatible with the surrounding area, giving consideration to matters such as building height and streetscape. Number 6, and I'll just kind of throw in that there are 9 of these to go through, so we're on number 6. In the low-density mixed residential R2 zone, 6.1, in subsection 16.3, the deletion of apartment building up to 4 dwelling units per building from the table of permitted uses. 6.2, in the table in subsection 16.6, the deletion of the words apartment building slash following the words duplex dwelling slash, and the addition of dwelling after the words row house. And 6.3, the addition of the following as a new 16.7. All new row houses and townhouses shall be designed and built in a manner that is compatible with the surrounding area, giving consideration to matters such as building height and streetscape. Number 7, in the medium density residential R3 zone. 7.1, in subsection 17.2, the deletion of the number 8 and the substitution of the number 6 for row house and townhouse uses in the table of permitted uses. 7.2, in subsection 17.3, the addition of row house up to 8 row house units per building and townhouse up to 8 townhouse units per building to the table entitled R3 Zone Discretionary Uses. And 7.3, the addition of the following as a new 17.6. All new row house and townhouse buildings subject to discretionary approval shall be designed and built in a manner that is compatible with the surrounding area, giving consideration to matters such as building height and streetscape. Number 8, in the medium density residential R3R zone. 8.1, the addition of the following as a new 18.5. All new row house, townhouse, and apartment buildings shall be designed and built in a manner that is compatible with the surrounding area, giving consideration to matters such as building height and streetscape. And number 9, in the Comprehensive Development Area Zone, CDA, 9.1, the deletion in 21.13 connector districts of the 2 and the substitution of the word 3, and the addition of a new C that reads C, connector transition, number 3, and the substitution of a new connector districts map showing 3 districts and now entitled map 21-1 connector districts. 9.2, the addition of a new table of permitted uses in subsection 21.14 that reads Permitted uses, connector transition, uses permitted in the R3 zone. 9.3, in 21-16, the deletion of the word district and the addition of the words "and connector transition districts" after the words "connector corridor" in the table title. 9.4, in 21.18, the addition of the words "exception" for any building within 100 meters of any main dwelling existing as of September 1st, 2024. Maximum height shall be 4 stories, following the words "maximum of 10 stories" for the maximum building height for District Number 1. 9.5, and there are 12 of these 9 points, so 9.5. In 21.18, the addition of a new column in the table with the header District Number 3 connector transition, and with the same standards as those of District Number 2, with the exception of minimum building height, which shall be maximum height of 3.5 stories. 9.6, in 21.18, replace maximum of 10 stories with maximum of 6 stories as of right, or 10 stories subject to council approval. And that goes to what Councillor Trenholm was alluding to earlier, so that change is in there. 9.7, in 21.20, the deletion of references to R3R wherever it appears and the substitution of R3. 9.8, in 21.20, the deletion of the word commercia and the substitution of the word commercial. 9.9, in 21.20, the deletion of A and the substitution of a new A being A, subject to 21.20B. Building height in the connector corridor shall be limited to 4 stories, except where the stories above the 4th story step back at 45-degree angle at the base of the 5th story. 9.10, in 21.20, the addition of a new B being B, building height on all lots in the connector corridor abutting a lot containing an existing residential building on or before September 1st, 2024 shall be limited to 4 stories, and the subsequent renumbering of the following clauses. 9.11, in 21.20, the deletion of the word 45F in Clause C and the substitution of the word 49 feet. And 9.12, changing all references to Building Bylaw SS09 to Building Bylaw CS31 throughout. Be it resolved that the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40 as amended be hereby declared as read a second time. Approval of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40 bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting held on August 12th, 2024. And the zoning bylaw CS40 in its entirety is attached to the meeting package as well.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Could you just remind me there who moved and who seconded?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rick Morrison.
Okay. Resolution COS 24-084, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Morrison, is on the floor. Any comments, questions from members of council? Hearing none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 3 nays and 5 ayes, so the ayes have it. Thank you, Councillor Duran. I think you have a couple more there.
Yeah, COS 24-085, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow, whereas City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40 as amended was read a second time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS40 be hereby approved and declared as read a second time.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-085, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Snow, is on the floor. Any further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. And it is a 5-3. The ayes have it. Councillor McColman, Adams, and McDougall are the nays. Okay, thank you.
COS 24-086, and I know I do mention this often, but just when it comes to the whole moved by and seconded by thing, I just wanted to point out, this one moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McColman. We all know that Councillor was not in favor of a lot of these, but seconding these doesn't indicate, or moving them any way, one or another. It's just how we get them to the floor, and I just think it's important for residents to know that, especially Councillor McColman's. COS 24-086, whereas the City of Summerside has been successful in receiving CMHC funding under the Housing Accelerator Fund Program, and whereas the City has undertaken steps to meet initial milestones under the initiatives and begin the implementation of the recommendations of the Mayor's Task Force on Attainable Housing, And whereas the city has determined to repeal the City of Summerside zoning bylaw SS 15 and replace it with the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS 40. And whereas the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS 40 was read and declared as read and approved at 2 separate meetings of council held on different days, be it resolved that the City of Summerside zoning bylaw CS 40 be hereby formally adopted.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-086, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor McColman, is on the floor. Any further comments, questions, statements from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Same 5 ayes, 3 nays. The ayes have it. Thank you, Councillor. I think we're on to another item that is also under your purview.
Yes, I have 4 more, I think. This one is a different area of interest, though. Resolution COS 24-087, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McColman. Whereas an application was received from Darcy McDonald to amend the future land use plan for PID number 308593 from industrial land use to residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development, and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, and other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that official plan amendment 0324 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted. Schedule B is attached. We usually read these. Official plan amendment 0324 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for PID number 308593, as shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan, is designated as residential land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation of industrial land use under the City of Summerside official plan. This bears the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting held on October 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Drawn. That was seconded by Councillor McColman again, is that correct? Resolution COS 24-087, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor McColman, is on the floor. I'll now open the floor to comments, questions, feedback from members of council. Councillor Cameron?
I just want to be clear that this is the same project that we got that letter from our Director of Economic Development about, correct? About our potentially...
That is correct. That was in the planning board package.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I noticed that was read by a couple of councillors last time, and I wanted to make sure that it was still at the forefront of people's minds.
Councillor Trenholm?
Sure, I guess I just want to draw 3 staff comments. One comment was since 1998 that there's been a loss of 25 acres of industrial land, so lost 30 but gained 5. The second comment that staff made was the planning officer recommendation number 3. So it stated, as a caution, location and zoning of new industrial lands is not a straightforward process, so residents will have concerns of the new industrial lands if located in residential zoned areas, so residential concerns. And the third item, just to put them on the record, I guess, is what we talked about with Mike Thaseska, the Director of Economic Development, stating that yes, there's enough sufficient lands and just reducing the need for sporadic rezoning. And I think calling it employment lands, and so maintaining the industrial land there would support employment and employment growth. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments, questions from members of council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Resolution COS 24-087, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The nays have it. The resolution is defeated. Councillor Duran?
I can't say Thathuska either. Thathuska. Thank you. It's been years. Resolution COS 24-088, moved by, sorry?
Sorry, Councillor Duran, I don't think it's necessary with the first resolution.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
We voted down the changes to the official plan are required for the zoning amendments. So that means COS 24-088 is off the record, as is COS 24-089. Moving us forward to COS 24-090. Councillor?
Okay, final one, at least for me, there's another one. Resolution COS 24-090, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. Whereas Jagtar Singh is requesting council approval in accordance with Section 13 of the licensing bylaw CS 21 to operate a mobile sales establishment at 188 Milton Avenue. Jagtar Singh is the property owner. And whereas Section 13 of the licensing bylaw provides that council shall allow or refuse an application based on the following considerations: safety, desirability, impact on established businesses in the city, public convenience, and such other considerations as it deems appropriate. Be it resolved that council grant approval to Jagtar Singh to operate a mobile sales establishment at 188 Milton Avenue. Jagtar Singh, property owner. The license is subject to the following conditions: paying a license fee of $500 for a local business as per licensing bylaw CS 21 regulations. A food health permit is approved by the province. Litter disposal containers are provided on site. Hours and days of operation, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Saturday. And the mobile sales establishment cannot occupy either of the 2 parking spaces required for the single-family dwelling. This does not bear the recommendation of the Planning Board meeting of October 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-090, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Snow, is on the floor. Comments, questions, statements from members of council? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor of resolution COS 24-090, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The nays have it. The resolution is defeated. So with that, thank you, Councillor Duran, for your lovely voice again this evening. That has carried us through now almost 2 hours. I will pass this over to Councillor McDougall as Chair of Finance Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I have a resolution here, and it's been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rick Morrison, and it's to approve the audited financial statements. I will say more on my monthly report on the audit, but this is just be it resolved, the City Council approved the 2023-2024 audited financial statements.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-091, moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Snow, is on the floor. Comments, statements from members, questions from members of council? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried unanimously. At this point, we move into department reports. I don't know if council want to take a minute, or if people, if they need to step out, can probably step out and in. But I think you guys comfortable just to keep pushing ahead, getting through the evening? Okay. Let's keep giving her. Okay. Department reports, 7A, Finance, Representative Councillor McDougall. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a report here, and from Kristen Dunsford, our Director. Good evening, colleagues on City Council and business and residents of the City of Summerside. The audit for the 2023-2024 fiscal year has been completed by Doane Grant Thornton LLP, and a resolution was just passed here this evening and for approval. Once the resolution has been passed, the financial statements will be available on our website. And here are some of the highlights from the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Please refer to our discussions on the 23-24 financial statements, which can be found with the financial statements on our website. In accordance with public sector accounting standards, our consolidated statement of operations is reporting an annual surplus of $16.1 million. This compares to a budgeted surplus calculated on the same basis of $15.4 million. PSAS requires governments to record infrastructure funding received for capital projects to be recorded as a grant and not amortized over the useful life of the asset. The receipt of infrastructure funding for our solar storage project is the main reason we're reporting a $16.1 million surplus. The city's financial debt increased by $5.1 million to $96.2 million, and that is mainly due to significant capital expenditures and associated financing for these assets for the solar storage project. This significant project will provide long-term recurring, whatever it is, additional revenue will be more than offset by the debt servicing costs required to fund these capital expenditures. The long-term debt has been increased by $6.3 million. The city is still within acceptable debt limits. However, debt servicing costs are increasing, which means a greater percentage of revenue is required to pay these debt service costs, and this may require a reduction in other spending unless new sources of revenue are realized. Finance Committee has recently met and discussed the 2025-26 budget schedule and a preliminary start to the scope of work for capital planning and debt policies. Updates will be provided as the committee works through these priorities, and our report for the November council meeting will include a projection to the March 31st, 2025. Departments are meeting with finance to review the to-date results and forecast expenditures for the balance of the year. I will end my report with the status of our utility accounts receivable. As of October 15th, 2024, the following is reported. A total overdue balance of $206,900 compared to $188,300 on September 11th, 2024. Approximately $38,600 or 18.7% of the overdue balance is greater than 60 days old. This increased from $26,400 or 14% at September in 2024. Disconnections of service for non-payment are still occurring. If you receive a collection notice, you are strongly urged to contact customer service at 902-432-1230 to discuss payment options. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Councillor Snow?
I'm just
Thanks.
going to draw attention to sort of, Rick had referenced it earlier this evening, but it goes back to a lot of the discussion we were having tonight and the need for growth. So it's pointed out in here that we may have to see a reduction in services if we don't find new revenue. So like, again, I keep saying that as a city or a town, municipality, you need to keep growing in order to sustain what you have, and I think it's important that we realize that and focus on good growth moving forward. So.
I agree. There's definitely growth in the city too. So.
Thank you, Councillor. And just also for the members of Finance Committee, I sat in with the Finance Committee at their last meeting chaired by Councillor McDougall, and they're well underway with their work with respect to setting up proper debt servicing policies and debt management policies. A lot of great work is coming from that committee, so thank you, Councillor, for taking the lead on that. Councillor Trenholm?
Sure, just a couple of questions. This is my newbie question, I guess. What is the difference between financial debt and long-term debt?
The net financial debt would be the amount of future revenues you would need to offset your liabilities, whereas your long-term debt is like your mortgage, any loan to pay off capital expenditures.
All right. I'll digest that for a bit. Oh, and my other question too, I'm wondering if it would be possible I know the debt has significantly grown, like would it be possible even to have a chart, even at the next council meeting or something, just to identify these are the reasons why the debt's grown so high, I guess?
Yeah, certainly.
I think that would be a benefit anyway, especially to me just coming in.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
And we can meet anytime that you want.
Oh, beautiful.
To Councillor Trenholm.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, that would be great. The other thing that is happening, and I think it'll start next month, is all the departments in the city are going to be making presentations to council on what they're doing, what their challenges are, and do a bit more of a deep dive, so that we have and I think community services is next month, and certainly it'll be the same for finance. So, great questions. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Move on to Representative Duran for technical services, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you to Director of Technical Services, Aaron McDonald, for preparing the report this month. The 2024 construction season is still continuing throughout the city. The construction and the inspection of these jobs will continue through the fall. The sewer main replacement work is nearing completion on Duke Street. The sewer main work along Mackenzie and South Drive is progressing. Sidewalk replacement is, it says replacement, but I believe that's new, complete on McDougall and progressing on Ottawa Street. The active transportation job on Pope Road is well underway, and staff have a city map showing the locations of planned projects for the year ahead. This is on our website and will continue to be updated as projects proceed throughout the season. 10 building permits with a value of just under $3.3 million were issued for the month of September, for a year-to-date total of 131 permits and a total value of just under $69 million. Breakdown of permits issued for this month: one commercial permit, and on the residential side, we issued for 2 for addition or alterations, 4 for single-family dwellings, 2 changes of use, and 1 for demolition. The second tender for the east-west project is underway. The new road opposite Roy Boats is progressing, and work at or near Granville Connection will be happening shortly. Developers are stopping in and speaking to staff for assistance with their proposed projects for this year, and now, as we say every month, now is a great time for citizens to stop in and ask for assistance with their projects as well that they still have planned for the fall. And that's everything I have. I did have actually a question, obviously, with the ongoing work at on the active transportation lane on Pope. The question obviously comes up: when's the intersection going to be done? And I know it's in with that work. Do we have any idea? Is that after the lanes are put in and they come back to the intersection? Do you know, Deputy CA?
The last word we got from Tech Services was that the foresight from Tech Services to order the lights themselves was great because there's a long order time, and we were assured that they would be up by the end of November, 1st of December was the time frame on that. Now, if that's changed, I can check with Aaron and get back to council.
Okay, yeah. And do you happen to know, and it's okay if you don't, because I just thought of this question. Obviously, the lights are ordered, the lights are going up. Is there any part of that project that also requires anything to be done with the lanes themselves, or is it just sort of going to be repainted and lights put up? And if you don't know, it's
I don't
fine.
know. I'll
Just
have to
thought
report back on
maybe
that.
We'll get back to it. Okay, yeah, no problem.
I'll make a note of that.
Okay, yeah, that's everything I have.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. We'll move on to Economic Development and Growth, Representative Deputy Mayor Snow.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following is a brief update from the Office of Economic Development. It's been a very busy month of engagement, strategy development, advance and investment files, and the following is a summary of some projects furthered this month. We are officially launching the 4th Triage Business Retention and Expansion BR+E survey. The original survey took place in November 2018. The goal of this major business outreach is, in essence, is to garner a better understanding of the plans and needs of local businesses and how business owners and managers view the community as a place to do business. The information from the survey will be used to plan future activities focused on the top priorities of local businesses. In summary, ensuring that our local business communities is effectively served by the city's lead economic development agency is the primary purpose of conducting the survey. We hope to gather and learn what opportunities and challenges our businesses are facing so we can address and support growing our non-residents tax base, so important to the vitality of a community. Meeting with Sustainable Energy Norway. This past month, we had the pleasure of welcoming the head of Sustainable Energy Center in Norway to learn of Summerside's achievements, learn about how this global leading organization is cultivating innovation, research and development, and commercializing opportunities, and discuss synergies of working together to further our clean tech ambitions. Sustainable Energy was created in 2018 and focuses in the following areas, and it focuses on clean tech innovation in wind, fuels, and other innovation space, clearly aligned with what Summerside has achieved and where we are headed. It is hoped that through these discussions and through local partners, Summerside will be able to tap into this joint venture to further our clean tech ambitions. That is the report from Economic Development.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snow. With that, we'll move on to Representative for Emergency Services and Communications, Representative Adams. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll start with Summerside Police Services. On September 29th, myself, the mayor, and Councillor Cameron attended the annual Police and Peace Officer Memorial Service. It was held at Trinity United Church. There's a large turnout of officers from across the island, and we wanted to thank the RCMP Veterans Association for organizing this annual event. Our police service met with Canine Therapy for First Responders Atlantic. They provide certified service and facility dogs to first responders. These dogs are physical aids that are trained to recognize mental and physical challenges that officers may be experiencing. We are hoping to receive a dog that is presently in training. Charlottetown and Kensington Police Forces have facility dogs, and they are being provided free of charge. The police service completed interviews for the cadet sponsorship program that started in January at the Atlantic Police Academy. 2 individuals have been selected for the program and now will undergo an extensive background check and testing through the academy before a final decision is made. And fire services, is there any questions? I'll just keep going. During the month, firefighters responded to a total of 26 calls. 5 were medical first responder calls, 21 silent alarms, and there were no structure fires. It's great, but what's not great is that we're responding to medical first responder calls that we get volunteers have to go out for whenever it's something that really is a provincial responsibility. So we'll keep on them about that. Firefighters participated in 199 hours of training in September. A quick snapshot of this includes training with smooth bore nozzles and continued training for high-rise buildings. For a lot of future consideration, it will be near impossible. For a lot of future construction, it will be near impossible to stretch a hose from the ground to the top of a floor. I think they said, was it 4 stories, Justin, that we can currently go? I think that's what Stephen said. High-rise packs are made to be carried into a building connected to the building's standpipe system. And the face of firefighting is changing in our little province and city daily. That's all we have.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Question, Councillor Snow? Or would you like just to? Councillor Trenholm?
Yes.
Question?
I do have a question. I'm wondering if we know if the police services are at full complement. I know they weren't at some point, but are they now?
No. Do you know?
We're consistently out for hire. We have done I shouldn't say we, HR and police services has done a pretty strong job of recruiting in the last number of months, and we're certainly in a better position than we were in recent years. But it still remains a challenge in terms of recruitment. I can get back to council on the exact vacancy rate, but we're always a few officers short of having a full patrol complement.
Okay. Yeah.
And also on that, the cadet sponsorship program, so with that is we vet them, we send them, we pay for them, and then the requirement is that they stay in town.
Yeah, and I think we have 2 right now in that program, I think.
Right.
If I'm
And
incorrect.
And two more starting very soon.
2 more starting. Yeah. That's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Now we'll move to Representative for Community Services, Councillor Morrison. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Active Living, Summerside. Active Living had a strong start to the season, successfully completing its first PD Day camp and preparing to host 4 more next month. The department has also announced a full lineup of Halloween programs, including pumpkin carving, sponsored by Compton's Farms, as well as a spooky movie night and Kids Haunted Dome. Active Living has also wrapped up its first preschool T-ball sports session and is now preparing for the upcoming preschool soccer session. Confederation Bridge Aquatic Center at Credit Union Place during the past month, sensory swims have welcomed 11 swimmers, providing calming and supportive environment for participants. Swimming registration opened on September 18th, and currently we have 160 swimmers registered for lessons, which began on October 12th. Aquafit saw an impressive turnout with over 1,200 total participants engaging in fitness classes throughout the month. At the box office in September, there were 23 conferences, room bookings, including a banquet and training event for the Powerlifting Nationals hosted in the main arena, as well as several regular clients holding meetings and conferences in the convention center. Inquiries for the upcoming quarter have increased significantly. October already has 61 conference room bookings, 49 for November and 24 for December. The box office was busy with Summerside Capital's home opener at the end of September. Parks and green spaces. The playground installation at Leger Park is nearing completion. Staff are also wrapping up bed maintenance and winterizing parks and green spaces in preparation for the winter season. Additionally, the remaining street trees have been planted for the season. And at the sets, staff has placed a bid to host the 2026 and 2027 Baseball Canada Cup and assisted in showcasing city venues to Music PEI Board and Executive. Staff also supported the Summerside Capital's home opener, which attracted 2,728 fans. Recent events included the NHL Street Fest on September 7th and 8th, with over 120 participants and 200 spectators, and the Powerlifting Nationals from September 9th to 14th, which drew 600 participants and 2,500 spectators to Credit Union Place. Additionally, staff is actively promoting the upcoming Celtic Thunder concert in November, the Rivalry Series in February, and curling events in March. And that report was prepared by Director J.P. DeRoger, and I thank him for that.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. We'll now move on to Representative Councillor Cameron, Governance, HR, and Legal Services. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to start by saying there's so many fun Halloween activities happening through community services, and I love it. Anyway, the city had the following new hires into permanent positions: Cameron Gallant as semi-skilled laborer, and Robbie Betton, equipment operator with Municipal Works, and Tessa Arsenault as an ice maker with community service. Welcome aboard. Final claims were submitted for funding for summer students at the Cup and Culture Summerside. HR staff hosted a City Hall tour on October 4th with Community to Connection Employment, the STEPS program participants. Through the cooperation between Community Services, IT, and HR, 126 staff now have been provided their new city employee IDs. These IDs identify employee names, pronouns, and any languages spoken, and are being worn during work hours by permanent public-facing employees. HR scheduled required first aid, CPR, AED training for city staff, which will occur during fall 2024. Organized participation in the annual Coats for Kids drive happening in October has started, and there's also some spooky season programming for city staff. I couldn't leave that one out. I had to put spooky season in there. And that is it.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron, Representative for Human Resources, Legal Services, Governance, and Halloween. We'll now move into Representative Trenholm, Representative for Municipal Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is reports from Greg Goody. I have yet to meet Greg, but as his reputation precedes himself, I think he's a great, informative, educated person, which hopefully we'll get a chance to meet soon. So here we go. Public Works and Water and Sewer Utilities highlights. With the snow season around the corner, as temperatures drop, the public is reminded to abide by the snow parking ban, which starts on November 1st. It runs until April 30th, between the hours of 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Warnings and tickets will be issued in violation of this bylaw. Now, with all the catch basins clean for the season, the street sweeper will be moving to do the final run of the season to pick up leaves and debris before the freezing temperatures arrive. It takes about 6 weeks to complete the full run of the city of Summerside, so I guess just sit back and relax. Electronic utility highlights. Operations received a much needed delivery of pole-mounted transformers, and now the construction services can begin to support developments for the city of Summerside. The developing public
the public are reminded to touch base with the department to schedule their needs. Customers waiting on electrical upgrades or on connections can call 902-432-1268 for an update on timing. And lastly, the wind turbine number 1 has been out of service for some time, as a new generator for the wind turbine was needing replacement, which is scheduled to be completed by October 25th, 2004, or earlier. Summerside Electric for the month of September had 60% of its energy supplied by local renewable power. Again, that was submitted, and you can see the bullet points. You can look at your leisure for the detailed report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trenholm. One thing I might just add and ask, maybe if we can start with warnings on the first couple of weeks for the parking bylaw, and maybe that's self-serving, but as much as I like revenue from tickets, I like people to have some forewarning, so maybe we can let them know. Moving on to Representative McColman for Culture Summerside, which has been incredibly busy lately.
Okay,
Councillor?
thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to thank Director Laurie Ellis for compiling the report, and it captures some highlights of Culture Summerside's activity from the mid-September to mid-October time period. The September and early October period continues to be very busy with tourists visiting our cultural sites and taking museum tours. This demand is currently handled by our full-time year-round staff. Director Laurie is doing grant writing and for next year's programs and festivals. The 24th Annual Historic Ghost Walk took place on October 10th. The program that takes visitors on guided tours of historic Summerside to hear the true stories of Halloween and the darker side of island history has been a hit in 2024, with sold-out crowds. Close to 350 people purchased tickets. I know that Councillor Nick was there and I was there, and we were kind of spooked out a little bit, but it was a good evening. October 18th, 24 marks the 95th anniversary of the Persons case in Canada. On October 18th, 1929, Canada's then highest court of appeal, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council of Great Britain, ruled to include women in the legal definition of persons. On October 18th, the City of Summerside partnered with Three Oaks Senior High School to host a pink tea to mark the Persons Day. Teas were the method used by early female activists in Canada to meet and plan strategy without fear of harassment. And there was a really good turnout of former senators, MLAs, ministers, all women. Mayor Dan was there, and a lot of retired MLAs and different people, but it was a really great day and very informative for the students, all on the background. It was really good. June Ellis solo painting exhibition, Island Colors, is the current exhibition at the McNaught History Center and Archives in Summerside during October and November. The Bishop Machine Shop Museum has been relocated. The move went smoothly, and the building now sits firmly on the new foundation and is in better shape than before the move. Substantial work was done under the floor in its new location to ensure excellent support was in place for machinery and visitation for years to come. Many community members have commented positively about the move. Some said it looks like it has always been in the new location, or I'm so happy the city invested in saving the machine shop, or that's such a great old shop, I'm glad the city is looking after it. Soon, all of the heavy machinery and small artifacts will be returned to the building by crane and forklift. And that's the electricity. So that concludes my report.
I just want to say how happy I was to see that machine shop moved and now being moved to a location that I think fits very well, but also for the reason that I think nobody will be surprised, but there's an older building sitting beside it, and every day I drive by there and I picture what could be possibly in that location, because it's a prime piece of location in our city, and that old building just does no service to our city. So I'm looking forward to some stuff that might be coming forward regarding that building.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Councilor McCollum, I'm wondering if there's any plans to do a sort of reopening ceremony kind of thing to draw attention to the move that the shop's done, and that we could get some
I
highlights
have
on.
not heard anything official, but I think they were just waiting for the foundation to have everything placed and whatnot, and I think it would be very appropriate. So maybe our next meeting could mention it to Lori, Director Lori, and she could get back on some dates.
Thank you, Council. It's been a long night, but this meeting is now adjourned at whatever time it is, 9 p.m. Have a good evening.